Hello, good morning. My name is Jon Witt and this is a handstand prep class. So if you've never taken it before, there's many layers in learning a handstand. So I'll be giving you tips along the way to help support you in eventually getting your first handstand. My goal is to get you up and eventually being able to do a free-handed handstand for 10 seconds. I've mentioned this before in other classes. A good handstand, 20-30 seconds is good to shoot for, but you could certainly build it up to a minute, and then once you get a minute, then it'll really carry over into other places. So you don't need a lot of equipment. I have some blocks to help support myself in later positions. You'll use a wall if you're going to be coming up. Today I'm going to be doing wall walks. So it's where your back is, you start out in a forward bend and you walk up the wall. But I'll layer it so again that you get steps into getting to that point. A lot of the handstand and what we'll be working on is more shoulder stability. So protraction of the shoulder is really a big part of it. And if you do have some experience with the hands, the wrist, you can still practice it, but I would, maybe don't do the whole class. Maybe you're not supporting yourself all the way. The most stress is in the hands as you get up. So if you have some experience with yoga and you've been on your hands quite a bit over the years, you should be okay. But it's a big part, and I'll be adding some wrist work to get support into the wrist to get your arms stronger. So if you didn't know, I have a class tomorrow, and that's from 9 to 10, and that's a Hatha class. It's a good base level class. And then Sunday I have a class, and it's on Zoom, and that's from 10 to 11, and that's also a Hatha class. Building a good foundation is really the objective in those classes. So to register for my Zoom class, it's on my website, jonwittyoga.com, and then you get the link to the class for Sunday. All right, so we're gonna start in an all four position. So come onto your hands and your knees. So when you're on your hands and your knees, just kind of feel the weight in your hands. I'm just moving the weight around, just to feel my hands, my wrist. There's some tension in the hands, the fingertips, the knuckles. But it doesn't have to be a whole lot. But what I'm doing this for is to give you feedback as far as how your hands feel today. I'm recovering from an injury, so the wrist work that I've been using has helped quite extensively in helping to rehabilitate myself so that I can, I actually injured both of my hands and wrists within about a week and a half time. So you just have to be patient with it. And if it's just sheer inflexibility of the hands, you can definitely build up the flexion in your wrist again. It's just, you have to work at it. So what I'm going to do is come into the middle and turn my hands out to the sides. And then as I'm moving my hands out laterally, this is a little bit easier on the hand, the wrist. So again, see how much weight you actually need in the hands to help support the hands in warming up. And then I'm going to come back into the middle, and I'm going to turn my hands back towards my knees. So both of my hands are turned back. You could certainly do this one hand at a time. So this is more stress on the hands. It's a lot like a handstand. So again, I'm just moving the weight around, and even though my right hand is more injured than my left, I still feel less flexibility in my left hand. So, it might always be that way. So I'm going to come back into the middle, and what I'm going to do is turn my left hand forward, and I'm just bending my right elbow into my body. So I'm lifting the heel of my hand off the floor. And this is, hopefully you'll never ever fall out of a handstand, but if you do, this is why we're doing it, is so that you don't injure your hand, your wrist. So I'm going to bring it down, and then just one more time I'm going to lift it up. But this could be, you could go for reps, or you could use a timer, 30 seconds, a minute, something like that. So I'm going to turn the right hand forward, and then I'm going to turn the left hand back, and then I'm just bending the elbow into the body. So So like anything that you're developing more range of motion, especially when it's weighted, you got to kind of see how much weight you can actually handle. So if it's too much weight, then obviously that's not going to be good for you. So I'm just bringing the heel of the hand down, and then I'm going to take it up one more time. So I'm peeling it back. Elbow could come back further, you know, if you really needed more pressure. It could certainly come more into the body, and that's kind of like if you've ever done Navasana, that's, you know, in yoga we call it peacock pose. So you're going to turn the hands forward, and with the hands forward, just again, kind of move the weight around, test the weight in the hands, the wrist, and then what we're going to do here is bringing the hands into fists, and I'm just going to rock forward, excuse me, and rocking back. So I have a seasonal allergy, sorry about that, but that's why I'm coughing. So I'm just moving forward and back, and then what I'm going to do is bring the backs of my hands to the floor. So these are quite hard on the hands. So just to begin with this, is you can just kind of roll out, and maybe not getting into the full range of motion, but I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to open and close the hands. So as I'm bringing weight into my hands, I'm opening and closing. Arms can be straight, you know. It's definitely more stress on the hand, the wrist. So I'm having a more difficult time in my right arm, and I'm okay with that. I'm not so like rigid about like just getting it straight just for the sake of getting it straight. So I'm gonna squeeze in, and you'll see which hand you can make a fist better with is the stronger hand. So even though my right hand, like I said, is more delicate today, I'm having more difficult time making a fist with my left hand. And then I'm going to come back, and then as I come back, just go back to turning the hands out again and move the weight side to side. Just bringing it back side to side. And then come back into the fist position, but just straight forward, and then just rock forward a bit and back. So just moving it. So I'm moving back towards the thumb side of the hand, and then I'm moving back towards the pinky side, and that should help. So come into having your hands just underneath your shoulders, and lift up through the belly, lift up into the ribs, and if you can, just take the knees up off the floor, because we've been on your knees for a little bit of time. This is kind of nice. So I'm coming forward with my shoulders over my hand, my wrist, which is a lot like a handstand. So, you know, this is actually possibly for you more difficult than a plank. So it's a good thing to use. And then just come down on the knees and have the toes tucked and sit back on the heels and interlace your fingers and just do a circular motion with the hands to get some motion into the wrist. So if it just feels like it's really locked up, you would think just forceful stretching of the hands would be the best approach, but maybe just some light motion may be better for you. You can change the direction if you haven't, and these are quite nice, especially if you've you've broken a hand, or you've broken the bones supporting within the forearm. And then I'm going to come back and just open and close the hands. So we're going to get into more scapula push-ups. So if you can't do them, I'm going to do them in plank, but if you can't do them, you can do them on your knees. So I'll just do a couple on my hands and knees. So similar to cat-cows, but they're quite different. They are similar, but they're different. So just let your chest drop down in between your arms. Like think that your shoulder blades are moving in to touch. And then press through the hands and round through the shoulders. So this is holding for 3-5 seconds, something like that. And then come back down with the chest. You could hold for 3-5 seconds, same thing. And then you could round. So I'm going to do them up in plank. They're much more difficult to do. You want to keep your shoulder over your hand, your wrist, and that's what usually people don't do when they do them. And it's harder on the hand. So maybe only do 1 rep, right? But then you could go back to the knees. So I'm coming onto my hands. Hands could certainly turn out. And what I'm going to do is make the front of my body nice and strong and hollowed, and I'm protracting through the shoulders, and then just lower the chest down in between the arms, and then press through the hands, protract through, and this is the handstand, right? And then just relax the chest down, let the shoulder blades move in. This is common with people that can't hold the handstands, that they don't protract. So you want to protract, you want to know the difference. It's good. And then you're going to bring the shoulder blades in. If you're doing this, I say that's good because I can't see you. Hollow yourself out. Protract through the shoulders. And then let the chest move down in between the arms. Use your fingertips. Use the front of your body, your legs. And then come back down onto the knees. And just sit back onto the heels if you can, right? Open and close the hands. Make a wave with the fingers, just the right hand. Try not to move the arm, just the fingers. Move the left hand. And this is very good for the hands, the wrists, the shoulders. So I'm going to do a core series for stability, and I'll be doing some compression of the hips. So I'm not going to do a lot of plow, but more transitions of plow. It'll feel great if you have experience with plow, and if you can't do plow, you could do the hollowed positions that I'm going to be doing and rest when you need it, okay? So I'm going to have my blocks so that I can grab them eventually, but first, just have your hands beside your knees and roll down into your lower back so that your lower back is flat on the floor, and this is the handstand. In terms of pelvis and action of the abdomen, the ribs, this is your handstand. We're trying to keep this. This is a very basic way of doing it, right? And then come all the way down with the head and the shoulders. And then what we're going to do is just take a couple deep breaths. I'm going to do a Navasana, then a bit of some dead bug stuff, which is really good for stability. And then we'll get into plow, and then we'll get up into our first handstand. So we'll using the wall. So take your feet off the floor, bring your abdomen in, and then what you'll do is you'll come up with your head and your shoulders. And this is the very basic, hollowed position. It's good. So if someone doesn't have a lot of strength, this is a great place to start. And then you can take the legs forward. So if I could only hold it 10 seconds, I'd break, something like that, 5 seconds, and then go back into it. But you want to build up so that you can do it, consistently for 30 to 60 seconds. So I'm in this straight line, pulling the belly, pulling the ribs in. It's probably close to about 30 seconds. I'm not timing it. And then you're going to bring the knees back over the hips and bring your feet down. So this now, grabbing the block, I'm going to have the block in between my hands. I'm going to squeeze in. And then just slowly take the block overhead, and any place that it's really kind of tight for you, you could hold this. So right here, not that it's incredibly challenging for me, but I feel more of a stretch through here than, I feel it as well when I'm fully overhead, but I feel it actually a bit more when I'm in a slight angle. Like when I was here, not that it was more difficult, but it felt like there was more tension. So when I'm all the way overhead, because I've practiced more overhead positions over the years, probably more than anything, this feels actually easy or easier, right? So I'm going to take my feet off the floor, and with my feet off the floor, I'm going to bring the feet down and then take them up. I'm going to bring the feet down, taking them up, bringing them down. If it's easy, you're probably just not using your abdomen. Take the feet up, bring the feet down. Even if you are strong, you should find that this is very integrated. And then bring the feet down last time, and then hold a couple counts, and then taking the feet up, and then bringing the block up over the shoulders. And just round through the shoulders, and then retract, just so that you know the difference. You can bring the block down, bring the feet down, and just for a few breaths, press through the feet, lift through the hips, lift through the spine, you got low back stuff, you really want to lift through your lower back. I'm going to eventually, do again the dead bug and then the plows and then getting into a handstand. But, this could be your practice. Just this beginning is a great base to eventually get into more strength building practice. So use your glutes, extend up through the spine, and then slowly bring the upper back into the floor. And this is a lot like plow. So if you can't do plow, what I'm using here is great. Very similar, a lot less stress on the spine. And then you could bring your mid back down, and then your low back, and then your pelvis. You could just rest, right, if you needed to. So my feet are off the floor. I'm in a 90-degree angle. I'm going to take the arms over my shoulders. We're going to move the arms and the legs opposite to one another. So bring the right arm overhead, bring the left leg forward. Keep the ribs in. You could open and close the hands. Again, if you needed more strength in the hands, you can make the hands into fists, which is what I'm doing. And then take the arms up, take the knee up, bring the right leg forward and the left arm overhead. Keep the belly in, keep the ribs in. A couple breaths. And then you can bring the arms up and the legs up. Take the right arm overhead and the left leg forward. Keeping the belly and the ribs in. Bring the hands over the shoulders, the knees over the hips. Bring the right leg forward and the left arm overhead. A couple deep breaths. Bring the legs back up. One more time, right side, right arm overhead, left leg forward. So you couldn't do leg lifts, stuff like this. This is much easier. Bring the arms overhead, over the shoulders, right arm forward, or left arm forward, right leg forward. So the left arm's overhead and the right leg is forward. Ribs are in. And then bring the heads down, hands over the shoulders, feet down, and then you can just kind of rest here. But, so it takes quite a bit of leg compression to get the legs up. And that's what it really takes to do like a press-up handstand. Not that we're doing press, but the compression will certainly help you with eventually coming down and lowering in your handstands, like kick-ups and stuff. So take and I'm not going to be doing this quite a lot, but just more of, again, a stretch of the back and just a different class so that you have some variety. So have the hands beside you. You could kick your legs, or when you roll your legs back, you could roll your legs onto a higher surface. It's a perfectly good thing to do. So I'm going to take the legs straight up over my hips. You pull in through the belly, and you take the legs overhead. So what I would, because this is usually used in yoga at the very end, not that it has to be that way, but when I take my legs overhead, what I'm really looking for is kind of what I said about the wrist, is if my back isn't really ready, and it may not be, to get your feet down, you shouldn't get them down. Right? If I just think of my left leg, and then I can get my left leg down, I can bring my right leg down. Right? It doesn't have to be both feet at the same time. You want to keep your head straight. I'm going to bring the legs straight up overhead. And then I'm going to roll. Just not all the way out. Just roll out some of the way. And then roll. You can use your elbows a bit. Take your legs back again. And then when you're here, right, you could have your knees bent. You could grab your feet if you wanted to. Adjust your head, your neck if you needed. And then what I'm going to do is slowly roll my upper back into the floor, my mid back. Right, this is more stress, but say you had something within the back. There's other ways that we could do it that could assimilate this. So once you bring your mid back down and your low back down, we'll bring your feet down, right? And then just have your hands over your elbows and just lift up and do it. Just a shallow bridge, just to combat the compression in your hips, just to get a bit of extension and get the shoulders to be heavy and down. And then you can roll the upper back into the floor, the mid back down, pelvis. And then just take the legs into the upper body. You could roll a little bit if you needed to. I'm gonna roll up, and then when I roll up, I'm gonna come back onto my hands and my knees. So I'm just back here, and I'm turning the hands out, just prepping your hands, your wrist a little bit more, right? And then I'm gonna come back into the middle and press through the hands. I'm just gonna do a couple scapula push-ups on my knees, just not to tire you out, but just to press, just to feel that, because that's a big part of it. And then just let the chest drop down, let the shoulder blades come in more if they can, and then press, last time, press around your back. And then what we'll do is I'll do a couple just walk backs from down dog, walking my hands back to my feet. So if you can't go all the way up into a handstand with the wall walk, that's what you could do. You could do, 5 times, 10 times, something like that. But you could also hold plank, like we did the scap push-ups. You could do a second round of that. So just come up onto your hands and your knees, come up into plank. So get hollow in the front of the body, go up into a down dog, and then just walk the hands back towards the feet. Walking the hands back, walk the hands forward. Right? I'm just gonna do one more just so that you have it. And then I'm gonna walk back. And the transferring, like you can maybe you can see that, is that I'm shifting my weight to one side and then I'm shifting it to the other. And that's how it's easy to get the weight to lift the hands, because you have to lift the hands off the floor in order to walk up a wall or walk on your hands, right, so to speak, because it's similar to that. So pull your mat to the wall. I'm not going to do that just so that my camera and everything is kind of set up for everything else within the class. But, you're on a slippery surface, like it's a little bit cooler in this room. I just, get my hands to be a little bit sticky so that I don't slip. But we're going to, you walk up or walk back. Take your strong leg up, whichever leg that is for you. And what I'm going to do is, you could certainly hold it, but you never want to hold it too long. Like that's what people do, is they go up and they're like, I got this. The hardest part really is getting out of it. So you don't want to just go up and hold it for a long time and then you're like, oh man, I don't know how to get out. So don't get, and I'll move it in stages, but I'm going to do a couple of these where I'm walking up and then we'll walk back out, and that might be it. You come down, right? That's your way. But then you could walk up again. And we'll do this a couple times, right? And we'll go back to some things to help you. So my hands are down, grip the floor, the knuckles, be relaxed, have fun with it. Don't get so caught up in like you have to do it a certain amount of time, right? It's a process. So then as I round through the shoulders and I lift my right leg up, I'm pressing through the hands, right? I'm going to shift the weight into my right hand so I can lift my left off. And then the same goes, I'm going to walk back. You don't have to go back like I just did. I just did it so that you could see, right? Now I'm here at the wall where my feet are at the wall. I don't want to be my ribs touching the wall. So I'm going to walk back out. So just walking down. Right? And then I'm going to come down. I'm going to do another one, but I wanted you to be able to come out just so that you know how to come out. And this is, this could be really a lot for you. So if it was a lot, you could take 2 minutes off, something like that, and then do it again. And it could be like morning, afternoon, and evening. You just do a couple reps just to get you started. And then it could be more extensive, and I could write you out a program if that's something that you wanted or needed. That's what I do for people as well. So I'm going to bring the hands down. As I bring the hands down, I'm going to round the shoulders. As I round through the shoulders, this is really what helps, again, supports you in doing a handstand, like I said, in the middle of the room for more than, say, a few seconds. Big part of it, really big part. So keep that. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to just walk out. I'm going to walk forward, but then walk back up. So it's really like 3 wall-ups, or walk-ups. So I'm going back here, I'm pressing, and then I'm going to walk back. As I walk back, I'm going to hold for a few breaths, And then I'm gonna walk forward. I'm not gonna come out. I'm gonna hold this. And this line can be really difficult. Then I'm gonna walk back. Right, once I get back here, I wanna keep the ribs in. It might be your hair or your shirt that's the biggest obstruction in doing this. So press through the hands, shift the weight into the left or the right hand, and then walk back out. So just walk forward, and then bringing the feet down, and come down into a squat if you can. So squatting. And then when you're squatting, you're going to interlace the fingers and just bringing the hands into a gentle motion again, so that you're getting some space and motion within the joint, so that it moves more freely. You can flex, you can extend. I'm going to bring the backs of my hands together, and then I'm dropping my elbows, and I'm just letting the elbows drop. So like if this was, a handstand practice, just in and itself, it would look a little different than what I'm doing in this class. But what I'm doing in this class is kind of stretching it out, so it's actually easier. And that's usually what's used in yoga, is you do like some sort of sequence right in between, and then you do another handstand later in class, something like that. But to really get a good handstand, in my opinion, I think it should be a bit more structured and layered, and then it's more specific. And once you get a decent handstand, well, then you don't really have to practice it so much. It doesn't have to be like your practice. But if you have any kind of injury, handstanding, if you didn't know, can be really, really therapeutic. So it's not just a flashy pose. I mean, it can be, right? If that's your thing and you want to, develop it for those reasons, that's perfectly fine. But it's really healing in the hands. Builds really great strength throughout the body. It's not just the upper body. It's not just, someone asked me recently, is it too upper body dominant? Not at all. If you're working your handstands as you should, you'll get stronger throughout the body. So just walk, come back onto your mat if you're not. Walk forward back into plank. And press through the hands, round through the shoulders. Go back up into a down dog. Pull back through the hips. Press through the hands. Not really important to get the heels down, but can be really helpful, especially for squatting. So you could work the feet down independently. You could pulse. These are all, excellent things to use. Shoulders are rotating out. All these overhead positions, that's the mechanic. So walk the feet forward. As you walk the feet forward, walk the hands back towards the feet. Just being a soft forward bend. I'm just doing this for a reason, as far as like plow, very specific in helping you with your plow. And then I'm gonna roll myself up. And then as I roll myself up, just standing. And this can be helpful. I'm just gonna do it from a different angle as far as how the pelvis should be. So maybe got it, getting more of it when we're doing the boats, the low boats. But just stick the butt out, and then bring the butt down, the tailbone down, pull it in. So the glutes are engaged, the abdomen, and this is what I'm talking about. Everything should be integrated. So push the butt out again, like be really obvious, and then bring the tail down so you're more neutral. And this is, if you don't have this and you're doing long handstands or headstands, it can be really hard on your back, lower back for handstands, and be really hard on your neck for headstands. So this is, really important for that. So push it out again, and then you could bring it down, and then say you want to do more like a Taoist meditation. It's just it's tail. This is all down, but it's a little bit more relaxed. That could be a good practice. It's something that I use. So roll yourself back down, all the way back down. Walk the hands forward. Just gonna do a back bend in between. So lower to a chaturanga. Inhale, come up into an up dog. Exhale, go back up into a down dog. You could also come down, get some work in here, and then back into a down dog. So pull back through the hips, pull back through the thighs. Come back down onto the knees and sit back on the toes. So just kind of sitting back again. I'm going to interlace the fingers and just moving the hands, moving the wrist. So again, you know, this, for some people what I'm doing can be really helpful, but also can be really irritating. So you got to kind of know, like, if it's irritating you more, then obviously it's not good. You know, maybe you don't need so much specific wrist work. Again, I'm going to bring the elbows down, dropping the elbows, getting the backs of the hands together. Right. Then I'm going to bring the hands down, untuck the toes, and sit back onto the feet. So I'm not going to do a lot of this, but I'm just extending. I'm just taking my right hand back, rotating. So not that you need to be incredibly flexible for a handstand, but just it feels good. And if you don't have the flexibility in the shoulders, it can factor. You know, if you have really limited range of motion in the shoulders, I'd have to see that for you. It could most certainly be a big obstruction. So bring yourself back up, turn to the left, just twist the body, get the shoulders to be broader, get them to be wider. And bring yourself back up, and then you can bring the hands down, and then step back into a down dog. Go all the way back up into a down dog. Press back through the thighs. Think the arms are moving forward in space. And then just walk the hands again back towards the feet. So just walking back. Walk forward again. And as you do this, again, it's so much easier than the wall walks, but it'll help. Protract through the shoulders. Walk the hands back. One more time, come forward. Right. Protract through the shoulders. Pull in. Get the belly to move in. And then come back down on the knees. And you come back and do a seated position. So I'm going to take the legs forward. My legs are forward. I'm going to do that Navasana series again. It's a different angle. So I'm going to roll back. Once I'm coming back into my low back, right? Pull in. Ribs down and in. Head comes down, shoulders come down. You're back down. So take the feet off the floor. Lift the head and the shoulders up off the floor. Take the legs forward in space if you could, be in this position. You want to be overhead. You could certainly do that. That's going to definitely be more difficult. Not that that's better, but if you really wanted to be more stressed in the abdomen and the front of the body, this is a better way. So take a couple deep breaths. And then bring the knees back over the hips, bring the head and the shoulders down. And then just as you're on your back, see what your back does in line on the floor. And this will kind of tell you what you may or may not struggle with. So I'm more of an anterior pelvis person. So like when I'm really fatigued from standing or something like that, like I overly sway. So what I'm doing is bringing my lower back down and in. I'm going to take my feet off the floor. I'm going to take the hands over the shoulders. I'm going to go back into that dead bug exercise. So take the right arm overhead and the left leg forward. Keep the ribs in. So when we're doing the wall walk, this is what you're doing. You're keeping this in. Bring the hands over the shoulders, the knees over the hips. Take the right leg forward and the left arm overhead. Hands can be opened or closed as I'm doing. Bring the hands over the shoulders, knees over the hips. Switch to the right side so the right arm is overhead. The left leg is forward. This is, basic but really beneficial. Take the hands over the shoulders, the knees over the hips. Take the right leg forward and the left arm overhead last time. So keep the belly in, keep the ribs in. Bring the hands over the shoulders, the knees over the hips. Bring the feet down. As you bring the feet down, you can roll up. As you roll up, you can come to all fours. So come onto your hands and your knees. Again, just a couple scapula push-ups. So push through the hands, round through the shoulders, round through your back. Let the shoulder blades fall in. And then push through the hands, round your back, round your shoulders. Notice where your hands are. Often, hands are too wide for people. So if your hands are out here, it'll definitely make push-ups more difficult. It'll definitely make a handstand more difficult. Not that your hands have to be incredibly narrow, but take photos of yourself and you'll see could be that one thing that you correct could be very helpful in getting you into better practice. So just measure the hands underneath the shoulders, round your back, round your shoulders. And again, say this is just too much. You could sit, you can watch, you can hang out, you can drink water. I'm gonna do one more of those sets of walking up and down. And you don't have to do it, but say you wanna try, that's what it's there for. So bringing the hands down, try, if you have some experience, to keep up with me. If you can't, obviously if you're having pain, that's not good, listen to your body. So have your hands underneath your shoulders. I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm going to go up, walk out, walk back up. And then in walking back up again, I'm going to hold it, maybe 20 seconds, something like that. But just going to give you a little bit more time. And the walking is definitely more difficult than just holding. So it's more for conditioning properties. So press through the hands, round the shoulders. Lift your left or your right leg up. I'm lifting my left. And then as I'm up, then I'm taking my right leg up, moving the weight around side to side, and walking. Now, if I'm not all the way to the wall, then I'm not bringing my body to the wall. But if I'm walking my hands closer to the wall, then I want to keep my belly and my ribs in. Now walk hands forward, and you may be walking out, right? You might be done, but push, push, then walk it back. And then as you walk back, keep the belly, the ribs in. Now if my hands are relatively close to the wall, then I'm trying to get closer to the wall, but you don't want to be swayed. Now move the weight back, side to side. And then come back out and come into a squat. So squatting down, open and close the hands. Take a couple deep breaths here. And again, it's a process. So if I did, again, write you something that you did, I would adjust it. I would either make it stronger or I'd make it easier for you. Really depends on the person. It's really no do this, this, and this. You have to, anybody that you're working with on this level, should be an open form of communication so that it's healthy for you. So walk the hands forward, come into a plank, press through the hands, round through the shoulders. So just a little bit of extra work because if you're not really getting your handstand yet, getting stronger is going to be part of it, right? So pull the hips back and walk the feet forward just so that you're in a standing forward bend. So take your right hand underneath your foot, and with your right hand underneath your foot, rotate your arm out just a little bit. Now as you rotate out, just pull back a little bit with the shoulder, and you can actually feel the bones separate. Shouldn't hurt, at all. Just relax that, and then rotate it back out again. So as you rotate out, I'm just pulling back with my arm, again, just to get some space. I can push a little bit with my toes if I need it. maybe you don't need that, right? Take the right hand out, bring the left hand underneath the foot, and with the left hand underneath, get the weight. It's either you need more weight in the hands or less. So you got to kind of figure out what your body needs. So I'm pulling back with my left shoulder, right? Retracting the shoulders, and then I'm rotating the forearm out, and then I'm going to relax that. I'm just doing this a couple times, but it could be more than that, right? So I'm going to push down through the toes, and then pull back through the arm. Couple deep breaths. Right? And then you can take the hand out, walk the hands forward, and then walk the feet forward. So you're just back. Now step your left foot back into a long runner's lunge and drive through the right foot. Get really, really heavy through the right foot. As you get heavy through the right foot, you should feel your glutes. You know, big part of, you know, good yoga is that you're integrated. So bring yourself up into a high lunge if you can. So come up. As you're up into a high lunge, you can open and close the hands. Same thing, you want your legs to support you rather than just your skeletal system. You want to be, you know, not that you want to fatigue your body, but there should be a level of fatigue. So bring the hands down. As you bring the hands down, I'm going to bring my back knee down the floor. And then I'm going to lift my left foot back up into my hip. And then I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to take it up. And then I'm going to bring it down. Now, I'm going to do some rotations here, but I'm going to do it with a block. So if I have my block here, I can reach my right hand for my leg, right? Because you might not be able to grab the thigh, the knee, but eventually we can reach back and grab the foot. But I didn't do a lot of yoga positions today, just because I made it more specific for your handstand. But I'm sliding my left hand back. Say the block is goofy. If I had a foam block, works better for this. But I'm just rotating, and then I'm going to come forward. So I'm going to do it as a motion as opposed to a static position. So I'm going to push through my right foot, sliding my left hand down my hamstring. I want my hips to stay forward as opposed to everything moving back, right? Not that that's bad, right? I don't think that would hurt anyone, but as I'm reaching back with my right hand, I don't want to use my lower back to do this. I want to use the majority of my spine, which is your thoracic, to twist. And then come back, take the back knee up off the floor, push strong through the right foot. Think that, you know, if your ribs are on your thigh, just like your handstand, get your ribs away from your thigh. Then step your left foot forward and step your right foot back into a lunge. So with the right foot back, push strong through the left foot, and you're really kind of scissoring the legs together, right? That's what makes a good closed hip position better, is really that action. And some people go a little bit crazy with technical cues. So you don't want to make your yoga worse or your exercise worse, right? Come up into a high lunge. So I see that sometimes when I'm teaching, is that people are just too rigid and they're just, you know, doing everything as I'm saying, and it's becoming, you know, more problematic. So you should, you know, you should feel great after your practice. Bring your hands down. As you bring your hands down, bring your back knee down, and then pull the right leg up into the bum and bring it down and pull it up. And say you cramp up on one side, most likely a sign of weakness, and it can be a sign of inflexibility. But, you know, the cramping up can be really good for the hamstrings. So it's just, you got to work through it. So I'm going to bring my right foot down. Now again, you could have a block. So left leg is forward, so left arm is moving back for right leg. I'm having my heel elevated, which is going to make it easier for people. So if I go back and I have my hand here, and then you could use a block, but say like you're just like, oh, this side is easy, you know, you'll see very well which side it's easier to get to. Like, not that it's a bad thing, but I'm moving forward again, and then I'm gonna rotate. Like, a wall is great for this. or some sort of furniture to hold on to. You want to be stable in doing this, all right? And then I'm going to go back. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to take the back knee up off the floor. Never done it on the top of the foot. That could be very beneficial for you, especially if you're always on the toes. Just a different line. Arms could be up overhead. And then you can bring the hands down and you can step the right foot forward. So you're all the way into a forward fold. So hang forward. Move the hands to the left side, change the angle. Move the hands to the right. Bring yourself back into a squat. Squat all the way down. As you're in a squat, move the weight around. Adjust yourself. And then you can bring your hands back beside you or behind you and then sit down. And as you sit down, bring your blocks to the top of your mat if you got blocks. So I just have my blocks. You have really weak hip flexors. Like you really, say you could never touch your toes. Some of it is your hamstrings, but a lot of it is your hip flexor, your compression strength. So this will help with a good forward bend is almost like a prerequisite for a handstand, in my opinion. So if you don't have it, it's not to say that you shouldn't do a handstand. It's just going to be a lot easier to get a handstand if you have a good forward bend. Or, in gymnastics they call them pikes. So my right leg is on the inside of that first block. Then I'm going to take it up and over that block and down. And then I'm going to take it up and over and down. And let's say, you're flexible and strong or whatever, it could be higher. Just start it low so that people have something to start with. So take it up and down. And this is a good test for anyone. Over and down. You've done a lot of yoga over the years, more like Ashtanga yoga specifically. These are going to be easy, super easy. So if you want to use a chair, you do that. You don't want to compensate. So a lot of times people lean back to get the leg up. You want to stay upright if you can. And what I would do is where it's weak is where I'd hold it. And it could be a pointed foot or a flex foot. Like coming down, I'm going to take it up, I'm going to bring it down. And then I'm going to switch over to the opposite side. So I'm just going to have the blocks on the second level. I'm going to do 2 reps, but it could be higher, right? Just for the sake of you. If you're a person that's doing this for the first time, lower can be better, right? So I'm going to take the left leg up, and you'll see very well which side is strong, which side is more flexible. Left leg is up. And it's a right-handed world, but that doesn't mean that everything on the right side is going to be easier. Like my left side, this is like super easy for me. Like the left is much easier than my right, and that could be because I often do use my right side so much. It just depends, right? The left leg is coming up and down. I'm going to bring it up again, and then over, and then up, and down, and up, and then down. And that could be, 5 reps, 10 reps if you wanted to do it. I'm going to take my legs into a wide position. I'm going to do a little bit of side bending. Not that, I didn't spend a lot of time on this, but, I think you should feel great again from your practice. So my legs are going to be in a wide position. And when my legs out wide, it's never, not that a wide or a middle split position is bad, but just work on getting the legs to press out. And a big reason why I did the exercise with the blocks is you want to be lifting your legs up, right? Not off the floor, but you want to be lifting them up. And that's what's going to get you to the side better, forward better, more. And you don't have to do that the whole time. You can pick your spots when you're actually engaging and lifting. So I'm going to go up to the left side just to expose my back and my hip a bit more. I'm just off to the side, and then as I'm off to the side, I'm exploring what needs to be stretched. Not so much like what's going to give me the best photograph. So I'm going to take my right arm forward. This is probably the easiest way of getting the arm forward, is just letting it dangle. And then you could bring it forward, right? But it could be, big kind of, motions through the arms, like overhead. And where it gets kind of, sticky is something that I think can be really helpful for people. So for men, myself included, is that the lats can get very tight, the insertion points around the shoulders, it just gets all kind of knotted. And then bring yourself up and then go over to the right side, and then as you're off to the right, lift the thighs up, get yourself to lift up into a stronger position in terms of hip compression, so it's hip flexors. And then as you're off to the side, you can bring the belly and the ribs in, and then you could take the left arm, kind of like drag it. If I was on a picnic table, my hand would be below the table, and then forward, or like if I was, near a pool, I'd sweep it through the water and then underneath. And like I said, you could be moving your arm in a various ways. So like say you need more of this position, you can combine things to help you practice. Like I sometimes do this in my basic classes is because I see people and they're statically in a position where they're not really thriving, and it's like that for a long time. It doesn't really improve that much. So sometimes motion can be better than static holding, and sometimes static holding can be better than motion. So take the left arm up, bring yourself up, and then I'm gonna, your legs are burning, right? Bring them in, but I'm gonna come forward more like an airplane. So my arms are out wide, I'm coming forward, coming down, legs are strong, and you can bring yourself up, and you can bring yourself forward again. If I want more leverage, because some people are really locked up, the tighter you are, the more weight you'll need to adjust your body. If you have good flexibility, the arms out wide is a great way. Like if you have more flexibility than strength, you really don't want to use your arms that much. But if I'm a person that has inflexibility, I can take the hands behind the head, and then I can use the weight of my arms, which isn't a whole lot, but that's what's helping to bring me forward and down. And again, I'm not so much like I have to get down, just using it as, to be honest, I don't really stretch this way so much anymore because I don't feel like I really need it as much. But if years past I really did need it more, so I would train it more. But it just depends on what you're actually interested in practicing. So I'm coming forward, like it's not bad to get more flexible, or let's say that's your goal, but if you don't need it, then you don't need it, right? So come back where your legs are back in. Have your hands underneath your shoulders. Just gonna adjust your shoulders a little bit. So push through the hands, lift the hips off the floor. Now pull the shoulders back towards the pinky fingers. So pull them back. Shoulder blades are moving in. And then I'm gonna rock forward. And then rock back. I'm gonna rock forward. Back. You find that there's a lot of pressure in the knees. Not that the feet have to be perfectly underneath the knees, but you can move them forward like I just did. So I'm rocking forward and then back. Again, I'm moving the shoulders back in space as I bring my hips forward towards my feet. And then I'm going to bring it forward or back to the original. I'm going to take my head back in space, lift through the pelvis, and then you can bring the head forward, the hips down, and just wrap the arms around the legs. So just push the knees out into the arms, elevate the chest, sit nice and tall, extension, and then we'll come into a seated position. So just sit cross-legged, just to counter some basic side bending. I'm just going to side bend to the left. Move the weight forward if you need it. Targets more the outside of the hip. Bring yourself up. Side bend to the right. Again, lean forward. Again, target more the outside of the hip. If you're a really active person, right, the piriformis, the glutes. If you like the wide angle positions, which is really popular in modern yoga, that gets really, really tight. But, modern yoga, too, to support, it's good, is, there's a lot of hip opening, like pigeon and double pigeon. So those are great counters for the wide angle positions or half moons. And then you can bring yourself back up. Just have your right hand to your left knee. Look high over the left shoulder. Just twist like some of the way. Just make it really easy. Lift yourself up. If you twist more, fantastic. But if you're a person that is stuck in twisting, often it's you're twisting too much. You can twist to the right. You can have the left hand on the right knee. I'm just twisting a quarter of the way. If I need it more, I'm twisting more, but maybe you don't necessarily need that. And then you can turn back to center. Just interlace the fingers and just move the hands. Change the direction, which can be really goofy, but good, And like I said, with the hands, just, you can really schedule it so that you know how much you're using, but kind of see if it's too much or not. So I hope these classes have been helping you. I love teaching them. Enjoy it. Tell me, let me know how they're going. Send me videos if you need help with anything. I'd love to help you more. If you'd like to make a donation, all these classes are donated based. So my Venmo is Jon Witt Yoga, and same with my PayPal. And there's other forms of payment. If you can pay me, it really helps me teach more and more people that cannot afford yoga. So I'd like to help more and more people. That's my goal. So by helping me, you know that you're helping other people. So I hope to see you over the weekend in class. If I don't see you, have a beautiful weekend. Stay safe, stay strong. Again, send me any questions you may have. We just love to know how you're doing, especially if I haven't talked to you in weeks, months, years. You can always let me know how you're doing. And we really greatly appreciate the support. So take care of yourself. Namaste.